Well, hello, Hogwarts children. I'm going to read to you from where we left off on the Halloween chapter from the Sorcerer's Stone. And if you recall, Professor Quirrell had burst into the middle of the Halloween feast saying, "Troll! There's a troll in the dungeon! Thought you ought to know!" and then fainted. And while the students were all leaving the Great Hall and evacuating and going to their dormitories, Harry and Ron remembered that Hermione was not at the feast and that she was in the bathroom crying because she had been getting upset earlier that the other students weren't being very nice to her because she was being kind of a know-it-all. So Harry and Ron decided to, as their Gryffindors were going up the stairs, the Hufflepuffs were coming down the stairs, so they quickly got in line behind the Hufflepuffs and went to go head them off, go find Hermione. And while they were doing that, they also saw Professor Snape was going somewhere that he wasn't supposed to go, so they were thinking, that seems rather strange. So we're going to have to figure out what that was all about, too. All right. As quietly as possible, they crept along the next corridor after Snape's fading footsteps. "He's heading for the third floor," Harry said, but Ron held up his hand. "Can you smell something?" Harry sniffed, and a foul stench reached his nostrils, a mixture of old socks and the kind of public toilet no one seems to clean. And then they heard it, a low grunting and the shuffling footfalls of gigantic feet. Ron pointed at the end of the passage to the left. Something huge was moving toward them. What is that? That looks really gross. Oh my goodness. They shrank into the shadows and watched as it emerged into a patch of moonlight. It was a horrible sight, 12 feet tall. Its skin was a dull granite gray. Its great lumpy body like a boulder with its small bald head perched on top like a coconut. It had short legs thick as tree trunks with flat, horny feet. The smell coming from it was incredible. Incredible, which here means not believable. It was holding a huge wooden club which dragged along the floor because its arms were so long. The troll stopped next to a doorway and peered inside. It waggled its long ears, making up its tiny mind, then slouched slowly into the room. So here's his long ears, and he looks like he's thinking about something. "The key's in the lock," Harry muttered. "We could lock it in." Okay, so their plan is they're going to lock it into the bathroom. We'll have to see if that is a good idea or not. "Good idea," said Ron nervously. They edged toward the open door, mouths dry, praying the troll wasn't about to come out of it. With one great leap, Harry managed to grab the keys, slam the door, and lock it. Yes! Flushed with their victory, they started to run back up the passage, but as soon as they reached the corner, they heard something that made their hearts stop. A high, petrified scream, and it was coming from the chamber they'd just locked up. "Oh no," said Ron, pale as the bloody Baron. "It's the girls' toilet," Harry gasped. "Hermione," they said together. It was the last thing they wanted to do, but what choice did they have? Wheeling around, they sprinted back to the door and turned the key, fumbling in their panic. Harry pulled the door open. They ran inside. Hermione Granger was shrinking against the wall opposite, looking as if she was about to faint. The troll was advancing on her, knocking the sinks off the walls as it went. "Confuse it," Harry said desperately to Ron, and seizing a tap, he threw it as hard as he could against the wall. That means one of the sinks. The troll stopped a few feet from Hermione. It lumbered around, blinking stupidly to see what had made the noise. Its mean little eyes saw Harry. It hesitated, then made for him instead, lifting its club as it went. "Oi, Pea-Brain!" yelled Ron from the other side of the chamber, and he threw a metal pipe at it. The troll didn't even seem to notice the pipe hitting its shoulder, but it heard the yell and paused again, turning its ugly snout toward Ron instead, giving Harry no time to run around it. "Come on! Run! Run!" Harry yelled at Hermione, trying to pull her toward the door, but she couldn't move. She was still flat against the wall, her mouth open with terror. So the reason why Hermione can't move is because she's so scared that she's just frozen. The shouting and the echoes seemed to be driving the troll berserk. It roared again and started toward Ron, who was nearest and had no way to escape. Harry then did something that was both very brave and very stupid. He took a great running jump and managed to fasten his arms around the troll's neck from behind. The troll couldn't feel Harry hanging there, but even a troll will notice if you stick a long bit of wood up its nose. So here is a picture of what is going on at this moment. Whoops. Let me see if I can get this a little bit better. There we go. Even a troll will notice if you stick a long bit of wood up its nose, and Harry's wand had still been in his hand when he jumped. It had gone straight up one of the troll's nostrils. Howling with pain, the troll twisted and flailed its club, with Harry clinging on for dear life. Any second, the troll was going to rip him off or catch him a terrible blow with the club. Hermione had sunk to the floor in fright. Ron pulled out his own wand, not knowing what he was going to do. He heard himself cry the first spell that came into his head. Wingardium Leviosa! The club flew suddenly out of the troll's hand, rose high up into the air, turned slowly over, and dropped with a sickening crack onto its owner's head. The troll swayed on the spot and then fell flat on its face with a thud that made the whole room tremble. Harry got to his feet. He was shaking and out of breath. Ron was standing there with his wand still raised, staring at what he had done. It was Hermione who spoke first. Is it dead?" "I don't think so," said Harry. "I think it's just been knocked out." He bent down and pulled his wand out of the troll's nose. It was covered in what looked like lumpy gray glue. "Ooh, troll bogies!" He wiped it on the troll's trousers. A sudden slamming and loud footsteps made the three of them look up. They hadn't realized what a racket they had been making, but of course someone downstairs must have heard the crashes and the troll's roars. A moment later, Professor McGonagall had come bursting into the room, closely followed by Snape, with Quirrell bringing up the rear. Quirrell took one look at the troll, let out a faint whimper, and sat quickly down on a toilet, clutching his heart. Before we go on, I want to show you this picture of a troll diagram, the Guide to Trolls. Warning, forest troll. And then here is the mountain troll. That's pretty cool. All right. Snape bent over the troll. Professor McGonagall was looking at Ron and Harry. Harry had never seen her look so angry. Her lips were white. Hopes of winning 50 points for Gryffindor faded quickly from Harry's mind. "What on earth were you thinking?" said Professor McGonagall with cold fury in her voice. Harry looked at Ron, who was still standing with his wand in the air. "You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in the dormitory?" Snape gave Harry a swift, piercing look. Harry looked at the floor. He wished Ron would put his wand down. Then a small voice came out of the shadows. "Please, Professor McGonagall, they were looking for me." "Miss Granger!" Hermione had managed to get to her feet at last. "I went looking for the troll because I I thought I could deal with it on my own, because I've read all about them. Ron dropped his wand. Hermione Granger telling a downright lie to a teacher? If they hadn't found me, I'd be dead now. Harry stuck his wand up its nose, and Ron knocked it out with his own club. They didn't have time to come and fetch anyone. It was about to finish me off when they'd arrived. Harry and Ron tried to look as though this story wasn't new to them. Well, in that case, said Professor McGonagall, staring at the three of them, Miss Granger, you foolish girl. How could you think of tackling a mountain troll on your own? Hermione hung her head. Harry was speechless. Hermione was the last person to do anything against the rules, and here she was, pretending she had, to get them out of trouble. It was as if Snape had started handing out sweets. Miss Granger, 5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for this, said Professor McGonagall. I'm very disappointed in you. If you're not hurt at all, you'd better go off to Gryffindor Tower. Students are finishing the feast in their houses. Hermione left. Professor McGonagall turned to Harry and Ron. Well, I still see you were lucky, but not many first years could have taken on a full-grown mountain troll. You each win Gryffindor 5 points. Professor Dumbledore will be informed of this. You may go. They hurried out of their chamber and didn't speak until they had climbed 2 floors up. It was a relief to be away from the smell of the troll, quite apart from anything else. We should have got more than 10 points, Ron grumbled. 5, you mean, once she's taken off Hermione's. Good of her to get us out of trouble like that, Ron admitted. Mind you, we did save her. She might not have needed saving if we hadn't locked the thing in with her, Harry reminded him. They had reached the portrait of the fat lady. Pig snout, they said, and entered. The common room was packed and noisy. Everyone was eating the food that had been sent up. Hermione, however, stood alone by the door, waiting for them. There was a very embarrassed pause. Then, none of them looking at each other, they all said, thanks, and hurried off to get plates. But from that moment on, Hermione Granger became their friend. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. See, I told you that this was the chapter where they became friends, because before this, they were not friends. So I hope you enjoyed that, and we're going to talk about it whenever I see you next. All right, have a good day.